The Chicago Grookies are back with another Wi-Fi league, and this time we're taking part in the LGA, which is in their 5th season, and it's an honor to have been selected as a coach. The LGA consists of 3 showdown leagues and 1 Wi-Fi one, and honestly, I'm super glad to be playing Wi-Fi again. It's only been about a month since the BBR wrapped up, but I enjoyed doing that so much that I wanted to just hop right into another one. I think I definitely drafted a pretty unique team, but I think it's going to work very well for the playstyle that I've kind of discovered that I play better with. So let's hop into that. I got the 5th pick overall, and as you would expect, Pokemon like Dragapult and Iron Valiant got drafted almost immediately, as well as Urshifu Dark and Great Tusk, so I was left with a lot of good options, but I went with Spectrier as it's a Pokemon I've been wanting to draft for some time now after seeing multiple people in the VDL use it to some great success. With 145 base special attack and 130 speed, it hits so incredibly hard to anything that doesn't resist or just is immune to Ghost, and the speed makes it so that not a lot of Pokemon are going to be able to naturally outspeed it without some sort of scarf or boost into their speed with like agility or something like that. Spectrier is also deceptively bulky with its base 100 HP and honestly respectable special defense of 80. The only thing really lacking is its base 60 defense. But there is one set that Spectrier can run, which is Curse, Pain Split, Substitute, and that allows it to break through bulkier checks, like any normal or dark types that it wouldn't be able to otherwise hit with Shadow Ball, and it also gets Draining Kiss to hit those dark types, which after a Nasty Plot boost, will be doing a ton of damage. And you definitely can't forget that Spectrier has the ability Grim Neigh, which means every time it knocks out a Pokemon, it's gonna get a special attack boost, so if you don't have a good way to deal with this Pokemon, it can easily snowball out of control. For my 2nd round pick, I decided to grab Kingambit as the synergy that it has with Spectrier defensively is very good. Kingambit resists the Dark and Ghost moves targeted at Spectrier, and Spectrier swallows the fighting type moves that Kingambit fears so much. Not only that, but Kingambit is a monstrous physical threat with its base 135 attack, and it's actually very bulky with, again, base 100 HP and 120 defense. Now, the one downside with Kingambit is it's pretty one-dimensional on the moveset side. You're pretty much always going to see its stabs, Sucker Punch, Iron Head, Kowtow Cleave, and then it's kind of a mix between maybe like Low Kick or Swords Dance, things like that. But where it really has the versatility is its item slot. Kingambit can run so many different items. It can run Resist Berries, whether it's like a Shuka, Akka, Choppleberry. It can run an Air Balloon to just totally avoid Earthquake, ground moves altogether. It can run Life Orb if it wants to do more damage. If it doesn't want to take the recoil, it can do like Black Glasses or Metal Coat. So there's just so many different things that Kingambit can do just with the 4 moves that it's almost always going to run. I've had some really good success with it in the past, and I think it's going to work really well with this team. For my 3rd round pick, I got Quaquaval. Now, let me tell you a quick story. During the BBR draft, I drafted Quaquaval and ended up dropping it in grace period. That was the biggest mistake I think I have made in Draft League history. Quaquaval is just so much more versatile than Urshifu. Yes, Urshifu's a bit stronger and a bit faster, but Quaquaval just does it so much better because of its ability to boost up just faster with Aqua Step, but it also clears hazards, which was a huge issue I had in that season, but we're not going to get into that too much. Quaquaval is a demon. Because of Swords Dance with Aqua Step, like I said, you really don't need to invest into its attack or speed. Because with Moxie, every time you get a KO, especially if you get it with Aqua Step, you're pretty much getting a Dragon Dance. So just like how Spectrier could very easily get out of control, Quaquaval is even worse. But as I said, it can also be support for the team with Rapid Spin. It does get Roost to be able to stay healthy, but its main role is being a late game sweeper. For my 4th round pick, I wanted to get some more bulk since I already had my offenses covered, so I went with Garganacl. Historically, rock types haven't been the best defensive typing. They really just rely on their high defenses, but Garganacl is the one exception to that. It does have high physical defense and good HP, but it's also very physically offensive with base 100 attack. With its signature move Salt Cure, it forces my opponents to prep a little bit differently than they otherwise would, because they have to consider that, hey, Salt Cure is going to be doing 12.5%, maybe 25% to any water or steel types per turn, so they have to consider running Covert Cloak at that point, which if they do run it and I don't bring Garganacl, that works out really well for me because then they aren't bringing a more threatening item like maybe Leftovers or Life Orb or whatever the situation may be. It also just gets some insane coverage. It gets Earthquake, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Heavy Slam. It can Iron Defense and Body Press to do some huge damage off of its defense, since that is higher than its attack. It can support the team with Stealth Rocks, and it can keep itself healthy with Recover, which is one of the greatest things for Garganacl. If it couldn't do that, it would just be another mediocre rock type, like we've had in the past, but Recover really sets it apart, as well as Salt Cure, obviously. Grabbing Fezandipiti in the 5th round compressed a lot of different roles into one Pokemon. It gives me a Fairy type, which is the best typing in the game, and every team I think needs one. It gives me a grounded Poison type, which is very good for absorbing Toxic Spikes. Even though I have a lot of Rapid Spinners, which you'll see, I still think it's easier just swapping in a Poison type that's able to absorb them, so you don't have to worry about it at all. Fezandipiti's got a very weird stat spread that allows it to do kind of whatever it wants. Now, it's not going to be this huge offensive threat, but with Toxic Chain and moves like Beat Up, it can spread poison throughout the team. With Roost, it's able to stay on the field for long periods of time, allowing that toxic damage to chip away at the opponent's team. It also gets some really good support moves like Taunt and Tailwind and U-Turn to pivot. Even though I already have an offensive Steel type in King Gambit, it not being able to resist Fairy due to its secondary Dark typing is a huge issue for the team. So I went with the defensive monster Skarmory. Skarmory did lose a few tools in Gen 9, Toxic and Defog being the two most notable, but it is still so good with access to both Stealth Rocks and Spikes, Whirlwind or Roar to phase out Pokemon to be able to get more hazard damage, and Taunt just to disrupt. It can of course keep itself healthy with Roost, and it can also be a huge threat with Iron Defense and Body Press coming off that huge 140 defense stat. Skarmory even gets Swords Dance, so who knows, might end up bringing that one week. For my 7th round pick, I wanted to get some speed on this team, as Spectrier was the fastest Pokemon at base 130, and then I had a huge gap until Fezandipiti, but I ultimately decided to go even further above Spectrier and grab Regieleki, which is the fastest Pokemon in the game at base 200 speed. And while it does have very good offenses with base 100 in both, and a very good ability to boost its electric type moves, I drafted Regieleki for its supporting capabilities. Not only does it get Rapid Spin, but it also gets dual screens to be able to set up, and then Volt Switch out with its great speed. Regieleki is so fast, in fact, that most weeks I might not even have to run investment to be able to outspeed what I'm aiming to outspeed. And if my opponents happen to not have a ground type the week that I fight them, it is going to be very rough for them to try to deal with a Volt Switching Regieleki. My team has a pretty big ground weakness, so I decided to go with Arboliva, since it resists ground with its grass typing, and it also gets the signature ability Seed Sour to set grassy terrain upon taking damage. This allows the team to be able to resist Earthquake while also getting more recovery back on top of like leftovers or anything like that. Arboliva is also very strong on its own with a base 125 special attack stat. If you pair that with grassy terrain, Giga Drains and Leaf Storms do so much damage. The Terra rules for this league are the same as they were for BBR, so I can run any type, I just have to let my opponent know right before we fight. Arboliva also gets one of my favorite abilities in Harvest, which you can do some very annoying things with, like Substitute, Protect, with a Citrus Berry, and you can just continue to stay alive for long periods of time. I'm really excited to see what I'll be able to do with this Pokemon this season. And for my second Terra Captain, I decided to go with my favorite Pokemon to use with Terra, which is Colossal. Now typically Colossal is held back by its typing with a quad weakness to not only water but ground moves, but with Terra it's able to shed that and be a huge support Pokemon, getting Rapid Spin, Stealth Rocks, Spikes, Will-O-Wisp. It does a lot of the same things that like Skarmory and Regieleki do, but it's just kind of like a backup one to those. As you can tell by this point, I'm definitely going for more of a bulky offense kind of style, maybe even like a little bit of semi-stall, I guess you could say, if you don't count like the first 3 Pokemon. So I think having Colossal being able to, take some pressure off of Skarmory having to set spikes consistently will be really good. And finally, for my 10th pick, I grabbed Dugtrio. Now, unfortunately, this Dugtrio does not get access to Arena Trap, so it only gets Sand Force as an ability, which is kind of unfortunate, but it gave me a few roles that I needed to fill in this final stretch of the draft. I still had that huge speed gap in between Fezandipiti and Spectrier, so Dugtrio sitting at 120 was able to kind of fix that issue a little bit. And it also gave me a ground type, which I think my team did need. Otherwise, I would have to deal with just Volt Turn all season. So at least this makes my opponent double guess if they want to bring Volt Switch or not. So that is my team for Season 5 of the LGA. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. And Week 1 will be coming out tomorrow. So be sure to tune in for that. I will see you all later. Peace.